The teaser opens with a girl running through the woods in absolute terror. There is a guy running after her, all in silhouette in a light. And he comes up to her and he picks her up. She kind of passes out, and this tornado of leaves goes around them. And before you know it, poor girl is dead, and the guy is nowhere to be seen. Later at the crime scene, the sheriff turns her over and he identifies her body. And one of the deputies looks at him and he's like, "It's the class of '89, isn't it? It started again." Next thing you know, Scully is coming up the stairs of the J. Edgar Hoover building in this jacket that looks like what Diane Keaton wears in Annie Hall. It's really most unfortunate and it's too big for her, but she looks adorable and she's carrying a briefcase. Anyway, she goes in to meet with Section Chief Blevins and this other old guy who's in power, and then there's a random guy who is smoking a cigarette inside a government building, just chilling out over by the file cabinet. They tell her that she is going to be working with Fox Mulder, who was formerly a profiler in VCS, and now he is obsessed with these cases that have to do with unexplained phenomena. Since Scully is a doctor and a scientist, they're sending her to kind of debunk his work and invalidate it so he can go back to profiling criminals. So they send Scully down to meet him. He's not very nice to her. And he shows her this slideshow, and it's of the kids who have died. And on the most recent victim, the one that we saw in the teaser, there are 2 little puncture marks right here. So Mulder says they're going to go out to Oregon and investigate these cases. And on their way to the cemetery to exhume the body of one of the kids that has died, their car dies. So Mulder goes out to the trunk and gets this can of spray paint out and paints a big X on the highway. And Scully's like, "What the hell is that?" And he's like, "Oh, probably nothing." They get to the cemetery to exhume the body of this kid. They are, digging this thing up out of the ground, this coffin, and one of the straps that's holding it to the forklift thing breaks. I guess they don't do body exhumations very often in Belfleur, Oregon. Anyway, it falls off, it rolls down the hill, and they're like, "Oh shit, this isn't good," and it's probably not going to smell very good either. They walk up to the coffin, they take off the lid, and whatever is in there, it is not a kid, even if he's been dead 4 years. This thing has got a big old head, big old eye holes, and he looks kind of like this. Mulder thinks it's an alien, of course. Scully thinks it's some kind of a chimpanzee, and she takes it to do an autopsy on it. When she does the autopsy, she finds an implant up its nose, which she thinks is curious. The next place they go is to the mental hospital to examine 2 more kids from the class of '89. One of them, his name is Billy Miles. He's in a persistent vegetative state. He's not doing too good. And his little girlfriend Peggy's not doing too good either. She's less than all there. When they suggest that they do a medical exam on Peggy, she flips out, starts flipping her shit, gets out of her wheelchair, starts flopping around on the ground like a fish out of water, and she starts gushing blood from her nose. Mulder, in all of the excitement, lifts up her pajama top, and they have the 2 little markings again. So they decide to go out to the forest that night and do some investigation of their own. When they are in the forest, they are met by the sheriff, who has, like, a shotgun. Apparently this is what law enforcement carries in Oregon. Glad I don't live there. Anyway, Scully finds this dust on the forest floor, and so she picks up some of the dust. Then the sheriff, who comes after them with a shotgun, makes them leave. On their way back to the hotel, their car goes dead again, and there's this huge flash of light. Mulder's looked at the clock right before, as it happens, and after it, they're kind of like gliding along in their car, and Mulder looks at the clock again, and they lost 9 minutes of time. And Scully didn't see it, so she doesn't think it happened. She thinks there was just like a bright flash and their car went dead. But he gets out of the car, Mulder gets out of the car, and he trots up the road a bit, and guess where it is? It's where he left the X on the highway. Meanwhile, they are back at the hotel, and Scully is getting ready to take a shower, and she sees these little things right there. And she's like, "Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit." So she goes over to Mulder's room and is like, I need you to look at something. And there, right in the middle of everything, she drops her robe and looks way better than anybody deserves to look in a plain white cotton bra and panties. Mulder looks, and he's like, wait. And he decides they're mosquito bites. And he starts to tell her about why he believes in aliens. And it's because his little sister, he thinks, was abducted. He has, recalled that there was a bright light outside the room, that he couldn't move, he couldn't help, and, tore his family apart. It was all really sad. And the government now, after he's gotten so interested in these X-Files, they are trying to not let him investigate them anymore. He gets this phone call as the Peggy Odell is dead. Peggy, the chick that, got the nosebleed and started flopping around like the fish out of water at the mental hospital, who was confined to a wheelchair. She has run in front of a truck. Mulder gets a call while they're at the scene, and the body has been stolen. And so they're pretty upset. They go back to the hotel, and it is burning to the ground. Well, those were the x-rays and those were the pictures of the body. So pretty much everything is all covered up again. The doctor's daughter, Teresa, comes up to them and says, I need you to protect me. She was in the class of '89 too, and that they're dying off one by one, and that she has the marks and she's scared to death. Well, while she's sitting there, she gets like this gushing nosebleed, okay? Her dad comes in, along with the sheriff that chased after them in the forest with a shotgun before, and they're like, we're taking you home. Dr. Nemeth mentions that the sheriff's name is Miles, as in Billy Miles, as in the boy in the hospital. And Mulder gets this weird idea. He's like, I think I know who it is. I think I know why everything is getting covered up by the sheriff. It's because it is Billy Miles, the sheriff's son. And so they go back to the hospital and they examine Billy, and Scully lifts up the covers on his feet, and his feet are dirty. He's been in the bed forever. How could his feet be dirty? She scrapes the stuff off his feet, and she's like, Mulder, I'm pretty sure that is the same stuff that I took a sample of on the forest floor. But that's conveniently been burned up in the fire. So they decide to go out there again that night, get some more of the stuff, and have the samples, compared, have the tests run so they can have concrete evidence that he was at least at the crime scene in his dirty feet. And so they go back out to the crime scene. They hear screaming. They're running through the woods. Well, you come to the clearing, and sure enough, Billy Miles is the kid with, the girl in his arms and the leaves swirling all around, just like you saw in the first scene. And everything kind of dies down, and Teresa is still alive. Billy, the vegetable, is up and walking around and fine. They take Billy back to Washington. They hypnotize him. Billy, talks about, like, how there were aliens, and they, told him to, like, go after the others, and he was, like, speaking to them in his mind, and, they would take them for the testing and all that stuff. And they're like, okay, well, Agent Scully, get back to work and try and see if you can find... She was like, oh, wait, I do have this implant that was in my pocket that I found up that thing's nose when I did the autopsy. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll take that. Thank you. The last scene is the guy who's randomly, like, always there with Section Chief Blevins and the other old dude who's smoking a cigarette. He takes the implant, and you see him in this room, like, full of boxes, like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where they put the Ark of the Covenant, and they put it in this case of, like, 6 other little implants exactly like that one. And he walks out, and he shuts the door, and he was in the Pentagon.
I made this. No, really, I did.